So after that, Justin threw his hands up and just said, okay, let's go. So we drive another 7 hours through the desert to Albuquerque, slept in the van, and the next day, the morning of the show, we went to a mall and started asking random people if we could stay with them. Eventually, this random girl who worked at Hot Topic said yes, so after the show, the plan was to meet up with her and stay at her place. On the way out of there, we saw a bakery type place and saw that they were about to throw a ton of bread into the trash. So we asked them if we could have the bread instead of them just throwing it away. They said no, and then we watched them throw it into the trash and pour bleach on the bread. I guess the idea being that we wouldn't go through the trash later on and try to eat it. 11K Cody and Mike, his random friend that he brought along, were off somewhere else, and we wouldn't find out until much later on that they were actually just living it up, eating at restaurants. Meanwhile, the rest of us had a very different approach. At a certain point, this happened pretty often. When we would get hungry enough, what we would do is walk into a restaurant and just find a table where someone had left, but it hadn't been cleaned up yet. Then we would just sit down at that table and eat all of the food they left behind. It is pretty amazing how much food people just leave on the table when they're done eating in a restaurant. I know it sounds really gross, but after a certain point, you get so hungry that it's better than the alternative. And all you really had to do was cut off the parts where they actually bit it. So we did one of these leftover runs, ate some food that was left behind, and then it was time for the fateful night of the show. We get there, and this is actually the first show that Ryan booked that is actually sort of a show. The way this spot was laid out was upstairs was a record shop, and downstairs was the venue. It was all doom metal and black metal themed, which neither of the bands were. And I guess on the off days when they didn't have shows there, they actually held some sort of church congregation there. So we played the show, both bands, and there was a few people that knew the songs, so it was better than the previous two nights, but again, we didn't get paid. Ryan had his excuses, but at the end of the day, we made nothing, which we were really hoping we would get because we needed to pay for gas and a bunch of other expenses. And you have to remember that every tour leading up to this one with the punk band was at least successful enough to break even, and this one was totally negative because in most places they didn't even know we were coming due to the way that Ryan set it up. After the show, we went back to that Hot Topic girl's apartment, met her boyfriend and their roommate who was weirdly thirsty for her right in front of her boyfriend. She was really excited to tell us all of her strategies about how she steals things at different places without getting caught, and then she was showing us random artifacts around her apartment saying, yep, I stole this too, and I stole this, and I stole this from here, and I stole this from there. In the middle of her explaining her mastermind stealing strategies, 11K Cody asked her how much he pays for rent for her apartment, and when she told him how much he paid, he said, I could pay your rent 18 times over. I could basically own your apartment. I have 11K in the bank. 11K. That's probably more than you've seen your entire life, even if you count all this stuff you stole. Anyway, then the people we were staying with kept interviewing him about how we got 11K and what does it feel like to have 11K, while the rest of us were eating literal trash on the floor, and the only thing she had in her fridge was a bottle of mustard, so we just applied mustard to anything we had. I tried watching The Prestige, but I fell asleep on the floor pretty fast. The next morning, we found out that someone stole our hitch pin from the van. It's the thing that connects the van to the trailer, and that thing cost maybe $5 at the time. So Justin said, all right, Cody, you said you'd cover this. I said if it broke. It's not broken, it's stolen. It's $5, and you said that you'd pay. You guys are so poor you can't pay $5. It's not broken. So he never paid for it, and as soon as we were trying to leave, something went wrong with the van. Bad. We couldn't tell exactly what was wrong, but we knew that we had to turn around and start trying to head back. By the time we were pretty far out into the desert, something happened again. The van suddenly was now stuck driving 10 miles an hour on the freeway. And that might not sound like that big of a deal, but man, it is nerve-wracking when you are stuck on a trucking freeway where everyone else is going over 80 miles an hour and not paying attention to a broken down van in the slow lane going 10 miles an hour. So the first time we thought we were gonna die was when a full-on cargo semi-truck coming up from behind us clearly did not even notice we were there. So it didn't slow down. A bunch of the guys started screaming thinking we were about to die, and Justin threw his arms as hard as he could onto the steering wheel to throw us off the side of the freeway into a ditch. The semi-truck never even for a second slowed down, and within a fraction of a second of getting out of the lane, it zoomed past us at full speed. The gravity and speed of the semi-truck shook the van because of how close it was to us and broke off our side view mirror. So we sat there in the ditch completely in silence, completely in darkness, No one said a single word. One of the guys looked like he was about to have a full-on panic attack, and still no one says anything. None of us had food. We were almost out of water. It was completely pitch black outside other than the headlights of oncoming cars on the freeway. And those of us that had cell phones didn't have service. At this point in time, I didn't own a cell phone myself. When Justin eventually turned the van out of the ditch to get back on the freeway, this song came on, and we all just sat in silence and listened to it. We drove for another 6 hours like this, where at least 10 more times we'd have to turn off the side of the road at the last minute right before a semi-truck would hit us from behind. It was like thinking you were gonna die over and over again, but we had to get out of there. Besides the water situation and everything else, we knew that in the next town, which was Flagstaff, there would be a way that the van could get repaired because there were repair shops in Flagstaff. When tensions were at their highest, Justin asked Cody if he was gonna keep up his end of the bargain and fix the van when we got to Flagstaff, and surprisingly, he didn't put up a fight. Someone else asked, what if it takes your entire 11K? And Cody said,
if that's what it takes.
So we roll into Flagstaff at 4 a.m., pull over into a parking lot and try to figure out what to do. Pretty much everybody gets out of the van to try and walk around because we've been in that van for probably over 12 hours at this point, and it's cramped. Then while everybody is making small talk, I notice that Mike and Cody are gone. Shane calls Cody since he's the only one that has his number, and in case it's still not clear, we are two separate bands that don't really know each other besides the overlapping members. And Shane tells us, they left. We couldn't even fathom what Shane just said. Somehow we automatically knew it wasn't a joke, but still couldn't process that idea. The guy who promised to spend his 11K to save us if anything went wrong ran away and abandoned us, left us stranded with no money, no water, no food, in a place that we wouldn't even be in the first place if he didn't push us so hard and guarantee us that he would take care of any situation that came up with the van. It would have hurt if any one of us bailed, but he was supposed to get us home. But instead, he just left. He just ran away. Justin turned to Shane and said, call him back right now. Cody picks up, not realizing that Justin is using Shane's phone, and says, where are you right now?
I'm at a bus station.
What do you mean you're at a bus station?
I took a taxi here and we're going home.
In this moment, Justin almost blacked out from pure rage. Veins popped out of his neck, and he started screaming things into the phone that would put him on an FBI watch list that I can't repeat in this video.
You're a coward, you abandoned us, you left us here. You better hope I never see you again.
He kept screaming into the phone, threatening that he better not ever see Cody for the rest of his life. He was holding the phone in one hand, not by his ear, looking straight down at it and just screaming. I don't know if Cody said anything else or not, but Justin slammed the phone shut and gave it back to Shane. We were left with no other options, shivering in the icy box of a van with nothing, not even a glimmer of hope of how we would get home. And we would have to end up doing things that we weren't proud of just to get by. But it turns out that Justin was wrong about us never seeing Cody again. But that is a story for the next part. The next video is going to be a totally different story, sort of a one-off. But if you want us to come back to this story one day, let me know down below in the comments, subscribe, and hit the bell to turn on notifications. But most importantly, subscribe to Easy Mode for some great music you can put on in the background while you chill. The second channel just hit 1 million subscribers, so thank you to everyone who subscribed to it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, both Easy Mode and that channel are linked down below in the description. Also, if you are an animator and want to work on the next story video, shoot me a tweet. But remember, check out Easy Mode.